A shameful act. Russia militarizes Ukrainian children in occupied Kherson. December 29th, 2025. That is the headline we're starting with today, and it's backed by some truly disturbing investigative reports. For everyone out there supporting Ukraine, if you want timely, in-depth analysis, please subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source. I'm Alex. Join me with Arya for the latest deep dive by Defense Report. We do sharp, no-nonsense breakdowns of global defense, military tech, and strategic developments. And today we're going to cover a systematic state-sponsored campaign by Russia. Its mission is to erase Ukrainian identity and militarize its youngest generation in the occupied territories.
That's right. And we need to be clear, the reports we're analyzing confirm this is not random. It's not happening in pockets. This is a calculated national level strategy.
A strategy that some legal experts, using Raphael Lemkin's original definition, are calling a form of cultural genocide.
Precisely.
And we have to get two huge facts out on the table for you right away. First, we have evidence. We're talking documented proof of Russian-backed military groups swearing in children as young as 8 years old.
And it's not just an oath. They're being taught how to handle explosives, how to operate drones.
It's unbelievable. And the second fact is just as important. This whole thing is being directed from the very top.
Oh, absolutely. The people running this show are high-ranking Russian officials. Some of them. Well, some of them already have international criminal court warrants out for their arrest.
For the forcible transfer of children, no less?
The very same crime. This is all connected.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What is the ultimate mission here? What is the goal of this cognitive colonization?
Well, looking at the evidence, the core mission is really twofold. You have demographic engineering on one hand, and then creating a permanently hostile Russian identity on the other. Researchers have a name for it. They call it the Crimean scenario.
The Crimean scenario. So this is a blueprint that's been tested before.
Yes, for years. It was refined in Crimea after the 2014 annexation, and then, applied with incredible speed and brutality across other occupied territories after 2022.
So Crimea was the laboratory for this.
It was the perfect place to test the 3 stages you need for this kind of identity erasure.
3 stages? What are they?
The first is simple, and it's brutal. The destruction of Ukrainian studies. So Ukrainian language, history, literature, it's all banned or so severely limited, might as well be.
And what does that look like on the ground?
The numbers are stark. In Crimea, before 2014, basically all students had access to Ukrainian studies. By 2022, the reports say it was down to 0.1%.
0.1%. That's statistical noise. It's effectively zero.
It's erasure. And they don't just leave a vacuum. They replace it with distorted Russian textbooks.
With propaganda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
History gets completely rewritten. For instance, the Crimean Tatars, the indigenous people who were victims of Russian aggression, are now portrayed as Nazi collaborators. It's shocking.
And that lays the groundwork for the next stage, I assume.
It does. Stage 2 is ideological indoctrination. This happens in mandatory weekly classes. They're called conversations about the important.
Sounds harmless.
It's anything but. These are pure pro-Kremlin sessions. They glorify the war, they portray Ukraine and the West as this existential enemy, and they drill into these kids that their only true home is Russia.
So you erase their past, you poison their present.
And then you move to stage 3, militarization.
Which is where it becomes a direct physical threat to the children.
Right. This is where the ideology becomes action. You get them involved in youth groups that provide actual combat training. It's a production line. Erase, indoctrinate, and then arm.
That brings up a huge practical question. An operation this big needs people, it needs staff. We know so many Ukrainian teachers refuse to cooperate. So how does Russia actually enforce this system across such vast territories?
That's a great question. And the sources, like the reports from the Institute of Mass Information, detail 4 main schemes, all state-funded, of course.
Okay, what's the first one?
It's the most straightforward. Recruiting Russian educators. They basically throw money at the problem. They offer massive financial bonuses. We're talking up to 2 months' salary paid in a single week to lure teachers from Russia into places like Kherson.
And these aren't just teachers, they're ideological enforcers.
That's their primary job, not math or science, but making sure the propaganda is delivered correctly.
So they import the ideology, but what about the local teachers who stay behind, the ones they can pressure?
That's scheme number 2, retraining collaborators. Any Ukrainian teacher who agrees to work is forced into these capability building courses. They're held in Moscow, Rostov, or online, and they're explicitly taught how to manipulate history, how to teach that Donbass is historically Russian land.
Wow. And what's the third scheme?
They call them humanitarian missions. Russia sends in student squads and volunteers, a lot of them from teaching universities, under this big state program. And they're not there to rebuild schools. Their job is to organize all the extracurricular stuff, the patriotic concerts, the flag-waving events, more ideological grooming.
And that leaves the fourth scheme, the one for people who still won't comply.
Right, and that's where we see documented war crimes. The fourth scheme is terrorizing Ukrainian educators.
So abduction, torture.
Abduction, imprisonment, torture, sexual assault, even murder. The reports are filled with cases of teachers who resisted and paid the ultimate price.
And these aren't just random acts by rogue soldiers.
No, absolutely not. Investigators have confirmed that the torture sites where teachers were held were part of the official occupation plan. They were managed by the FSB. They even brought in Russian prison staff to run them.
I mean, the case of Oksana Yakubova, the principal in Novokakhovka, it's just chilling.
It is. Imprisoned for a week, pressured to switch curricula, and they demanded she hand over all the school computers.
Why the computer?
Because, and this is a direct quote from the reports, they wanted to create the illusion of an exemplary Russian school. It's all about the propaganda.
And for those who are openly pro-Ukrainian, it's even worse.
Yeah. Much worse. Look at Serhiy Bosko, a math teacher. He was hunted down, tortured, and killed. Witnesses said the soldiers screamed insults at him, making it clear they were killing him for his identity.
It's designed to make resistance feel completely hopeless.
It is, and that terror extends to the parents. They use the children as leverage.
How so?
Authorities threaten to terminate parental rights if kids are caught attending online Ukrainian schools. There are reports of raids on family homes.
And I imagine there's a carrot to go with that stick.
Of course. Putin offers a 10,000 ruble subsidy to parents who enroll their children in the Russian schools. It's a complete system of coercion.
So this infrastructure, it's not just an education system, it's building a pipeline, right? Straight from the classroom to the front line.
That is the critical link. This is a state-sponsored infrastructure for creating child soldiers. It's a direct violation of international law.
Let's break down the big organizations driving this. First, there's the Youth Army.
UNARMIA, yes. It was founded by the Russian Defense Ministry back in 2016. This is the purely military wing. Kids as young as 8, swearing an oath of loyalty to Russia, getting trained with live firearms, tactical drills, drones.
The scale is just mind-boggling.
It is. UNARMIA claims 1.8 million members. And worse, sources confirm over 12,000 of its graduates are already fighting against Ukraine.
A direct line from an oath at age 8 to a trench. What about the other group, the Movement of the First?
So if UNARMIA is the military arm, the Movement of the First is the ideological one. It was created in 2022. Putin personally supervises it, and it's basically a reboot of the Soviet-era pioneers. The goal is to get all 18 million kids in Russia, including the occupied territories, into this single ideological structure.
And I'm guessing these two groups work together.
They do. They co-organize these militaristic games, like Tsarnitsa 2.0. And these aren't just games. We're talking tactical combat simulations, drone operations, navigating mock minefields.
And the testimony from kids who've been there is harrowing.
It is. One boy described an exercise that felt like a real war. He said a girl fainted from the stress, and they just left her there for 10 minutes before getting help.
The priority is the training, not the child's welfare.
Clearly.
And moving these kids around requires massive logistics. This isn't just happening at local schools.
No, this is a huge network. The Yale Humanitarian Research Lab, Yale HRL, they've identified at least 210 facilities across Russia and occupied lands for this purpose.
210?
Yes. For re-education, transfer, militarization, and over 60% are run directly by the Russian government. Camps like Avangard run these intensive programs, Time of the Young Heroes, 3 weeks of military life, up at 7 a.m., Russian anthem, weapons training, the whole thing.
And for the older boys, 16 or 17, the end game is conscription.
Immediately. They're put on military registers. If they resist, it just fast-tracks them. The moment they turn 18, they're eligible.
The case of Anatoly you mentioned earlier, it's the perfect, tragic example of that pipeline.
It is. An orphan taken from his school, tortured by the FSB, broken ribs, broken shoulder. And then, 1 week before his 18th birthday, he gets a conscription notice for the Russian army.
From student to forced combatant.
In the blink of an eye.
Beyond the physical danger, what about the psychological warfare here? What is the lasting, invisible damage of this cognitive occupation?
That's the iceberg. The trauma is immense. We're seeing hugely elevated rates of PTSD, which leads to long-term cognitive delays, anxiety, depression.
It manifests physically, too.
It does. It's deeply disturbing. Caseworkers have seen children near the front lines, some as young as 8, who've developed premature gray hair.
Gray hair.
Yes. Doctors say it's a direct result of the constant stress. Others have developed speech defects, uncontrollable twitches. Their entire world, their school, their family is weaponized against them.
Which brings us to accountability. Who is being held responsible for this?
Well, the International Criminal Court has taken a major step. They've issued arrest warrants for Vladimir Putin and for Maria Lvova-Belova.
She's the Presidential Commissioner for Children's Rights, ironically.
The irony is staggering. And the warrants are specifically for the deportation and forcible transfer of children, which may constitute a crime of genocide.
And Belova has, well, she's basically confessed, hasn't she?
She has, publicly. She gave an interview where she bragged about stealing a teenage boy from Mariupol. She said he used to love Ukraine, but she had to re-educate him.
She admitted to erasing his identity on camera.
Yes. It's a direct admission from the highest level of the Russian state that this is their policy.
So the short-term goal is to weaken Ukraine demographically. But what's the long-term threat of creating a generation of ideologically motivated, trained combatants?
That is the crucial question for regional security. Experts are warning that these ideologically adjusted, hostile, and technically savvy individuals aren't just for fighting in Ukraine. They're a future threat. They could be deployed against NATO countries in the future. The Baltics, Poland. This is about creating a generation loyal only to a hostile state.
The evidence is just overwhelming. This is a sophisticated, state-run system designed to turn children into weapons and education into an instrument of cultural erasure. The cost isn't just in today's casualties, but in a generation whose very identity is under attack.
Which leaves us with a really difficult question. How long will it take to recover a generation that's been so systematically targeted? What tools, what programs will we need for their psychological rehabilitation and reintegration once these lands are liberated? That's a mission we need to be planning for right now.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.